All right, welcome to Family Law Software's webinar on Florida child support. What you are seeing now is Family Law Software in the cloud. This is our web-based version of Family Law Software. If you are using the desktop software, that is our offline program, and it must be periodically updated. If you are using the desktop version, it should feel familiar. So the same tools in the general location, it just looks a little more modern in our cloud platform. So if you'd like to upgrade at any time, please let us know and we can get you into your cloud subscription. What I have done is I have loaded a sample file. So if you were to follow along with this presentation with a sample file, that's located in settings, you could load the same sample file and you would see the same parties and the children and all of the same numbers. So if that's something you want to do later, you can check that out. So starting a case in Family Law Software always starts with File Manager. And so this is where you would open any case that you have open, or you can start a brand new case. I only bring this up so that you know that you and your team can enter data, but there's also shared files. Your clients can actually enter this information online for you. So that way, when it's time to calculate child support, you're starting off on a really great basis. There's two ways to enter data into Family Law Software for child support and spousal support purposes, and they're all located in the affidavit section. So if you have a Florida case, most likely you're going to file your financial affidavit first, and all of these hyperlinks are all related to your financial affidavit. So in particular, if you are a mediator or a court user, and you have a financial affidavit, you could actually enter all of the information in order of the financial affidavit using this section. So you can see we've got the income lines and the deductions. If you were to properly fill this in, it's pretty much all the information you would also need for child support. And so you could enter this on a side-by-side basis. It's a two-party system. So Taylor is my client. She's the first person in the program, and then Blake would be the opposing party. And then you have both side by side. So all of this information is going to flow throughout the program, including for our child support calculations. I also bring you here because if you are representing clients with a lot of assets, and those assets have income, you may want to enter those assets or make sure that they're properly entered in the asset section. And that might be easier. So you'll have those options. There is a quick way to enter cash flow from interest and dividends, or you can tie them to an asset. So if you're using higher level functions of the program, there's a lot of benefits to doing the detailed entry from the start. Last in the affidavit section, so Family Law Software is constantly calculating taxes in the background as you enter that data. So every source of income that you enter is gross, and we're calculating the tax consequences. And you may or may not have known that in parties and children, the first party, Taylor, has a folder, so does Blake and the children. If you were to come here and open up Taylor's folder, you're going to see that we assume that everything is in the state of Florida. But especially for all of our practitioners that are in North Florida or in the Panhandle, it's very common that one of the parties could live in Georgia or Alabama or another state that has an income state tax. So I'm guessing that you see these cases at least once a year at a minimum. And for other practitioners, you might see it all the time that one party lives in another state. If that ever happens, you just come here and change the state where they live. And so this is a drop down. It has all 50 states and Canadian provinces. So if you were to change it to a state with an income tax, we will automatically start calculating the federal and state taxes, and it happens here. And if you were to click this green box anytime throughout the program, you'll see more information, including the tax tables for that state. So if you've ever been curious about what your taxes would look like if you lived in New York, or maybe you've got your eyes on Colorado, you could see how that could possibly impact your income or the case at hand. Let's dive into child support now. So family law software doesn't ask you what you want to calculate or do. We just ask you to enter the data. And as you click through any of the reports or tools, all of that data is going to flow there for you. So if I created a financial affidavit and I come to the child support calculator, all of the information is going to be here. All of it's here. So all of the income is going to be here, the children, et cetera. They can all be entered in the affidavit section. So when you come to your child support calculator, you might just have to fill in the opposing party's information. So no data is wasted, no time is wasted. And so that's why we encourage you to use the tools to the maximum capability. Our default calculator is called Quick Child Support. And so what this screen is intended to do, it is an easy peasy child support calculator. We have a little note here that lets you know that we really intend this for simple cases or consultations. It's also meant to mimic some of the functionality of the Department of Revenue's Excel worksheets. If you ever have a case where they're involved, they're using an Excel worksheet that is updated annually and sent out. And so that it's pretty easy to get a copy of that. And a lot of members of the judiciary use that Excel worksheet. So that's a fun little tip. And so if you are on the screen and you're scrolling through and you're thinking, where do I put the income from interest or dividends, the bonus, the tips, then you need to switch to our complete calculator because this screen really is intended for simple cases. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to see that child support is a live number at the top. In this case, it's $1,121 paid by Blake. And so I'm going to switch to our complete calculator. And we're going to go over all of the details of the calculation using the complete mode, excuse me. And what you'll notice is when I switch to complete, everything is now in folders, but my child support number at the top is unchanged because all of the data is flowing. It's never wasted. So if you are a pro, you can just jump through and enter what you need and go print your child support worksheet. But for newer users and for the presentation, we're going to go in order and go over some of the nuances that affect child support and net income in your particular case. So let's start with children. Again, I have the sample file open, and if you were to come here for the first time, it'll ask you the number of children. In this case, I already have 2 children, and I can add a third child or more by clicking this box or rearrange the children using this box here. You can put in the children's names or initials, so it will flow to some versions, some print versions and not others. So keep in mind, you might want to use their initials. And each child has their own independent line and their own overnight schedule. These blue bubbles help guide you as the user to the information that we are looking for. And yes, these all have an impact on child support. And so all of these fields are important. And if you ever stuck in a situation where you're just under stress and you're wondering what this does, you just click this blue bubble and it'll help. So I have my 2 children. I have my date of birth. The date of birth is important for the tax calculations. It's also important for the step down. We have a detailed step down report that we're going to go over, and you have to have the children's date of birth for that to happen. And the rest of the boxes are actually controlled by the overnights. So we're going to jump your eyes over here. We're built on 365, but you can actually switch this to weekly if you wanted to. So if you want to see the 7 days instead of the 365, you can. And what you're going to notice is whoever is the majority time sharing parent, in this case, Taylor's box will be here. Name will be in this box as the majority time sharing parent, and we'll assume that they will be claiming the child for the child tax credit. Why do I go so slowly over something that seems so simple? So if I make Blake the majority time sharing parent for both children, their name will now be in all of these boxes. So unless you've been living on a rock or in a really great vacation, there is now a presumption of 50-50 time sharing in Florida. And so in family law software, we actually let you do a true 50-50 time sharing calculation. And you would do that by typing in 182.5 and then 182.5. And so if you decide to run a true 50-50 time sharing calculation, these boxes become very important. So the tax dependence is actually the child tax credit. And so this is a drop down. You will see party one, party two. You're allowed to alternate that credit, and we will make an alternating report. Or neither means no one is going to be claiming the child tax credit for either of the child or one or the other. If you do a 50-50 case, then this box might seem confusing. And this box becomes confusing because you think there is no majority time sharing parent, they are equal. The IRS does not agree with that logic. And so if you decide to run a 50-50 time sharing, these boxes become important mostly because of the earned income tax credit. The earned income tax credit and other credits are tied to the majority time sharing parent. And so if you've ever switched that and noticed a huge change in child support, it's usually because of that earned income tax credit. And so we will discuss that a little later in the presentation and how you can remove it if you choose to. But know that if you're doing that, these boxes become super important. I believe that it's best practice to just assign that extra overnight. I know your clients don't like that feeling. They really like that 50-50. But that extra overnight, it just has a lot tied to it. So make sure that if you are doing the 50-50, that you're addressing tax credits in your parenting plan, and know that these credits, because Florida is a net income state, they make a big difference in the end. Right. So those are going to be all of those boxes. If there's ever children that do not belong to the parties in the case, you would just uncheck this box. And if you choose to do that, you'll see that the overnights go away, and the program assumes that whoever is in these boxes is actually claiming that child for tax purposes and credits. And so you will see that as a part of their tax calculation. And so if you add them, you would just add those children and then uncheck that box. Something that it just cracked me up. We get this call a lot. So in Florida, 20% or 73 is the magic number. So here I have 60 overnights with Blake, and I see what child support is at the top, and it's 1580. And I change this number to 10. And I see child support doesn't change. And so what happens is it doesn't matter. So if you've ever had parties that are arguing and they're under the 73 overnights, and you've seen the calculation and you're wondering what's happening, it's just because that's the way the calculation works. And not only is the calculation working properly, it actually changes the child support printout and the form. So let's go print for the first time. At any point that you're using the program, you can click print. You can print your affidavit, you can go look at spousal support. And so in this case, I clicked print, and this is your official Supreme Court form. And one of the questions that we get frequently, let me just uncheck this box for the formatting. So this is the child support worksheet. Everything is filling in with blue because we've done some math or pulled numbers together. This is a print preview. You do not want to change it. And you'll notice there's no overnights. The printout has no place for overnights. So if you've ever wondered that, it's because you have to have over 73 overnights. And so this is where the calculation stops on line 9, and everything else is blank. So if you've ever been frustrated by this because you wanted to show or let your client know you did the calculation right, show your fact finder, you can add a note, and in the note, you can say what the time sharing is. So that's just the way the Supreme Court form works and the calculation works. Once you hit over the 73, let's go back. So I'm back in the child support calculator. There's no gross up. So again, if I just change this to 74 overnights, it automatically changes the form. We know that the program's doing substantial time sharing. So there's a lot going on that you may not have known. So if you've ever wondered that question, now you know. All right, so let's talk about the green box. If you click the green box, it's important if you ever use the alternating. If you alternate the child tax credit, we assume the first parent is going to be claiming the child in the first year. If you ever want to make changes to that, or you're a financial planner, definitely check out that green box when it comes to those issues. Split custody. So if your eyes came right down here and you're wondering what all of this is about, if you ever have a case where time sharing is split, we have tools for that. You cannot accidentally use these tools, so don't worry about clicking them. You have to have split. So in this case, let's say like 365. So now time sharing is split. Blake is the majority time sharing parent for one child and Taylor the other. Now all of these tools will work. There's different ways of calculating child support in those cases because the statute doesn't really address it directly. And so these are all of your methods, and click the blue bubble to learn more. Overnights can be tricky. And so if you don't know how many overnights, you know what the schedule is, the rotation, the summers, etc. We now partner with Custody Exchange. So if you want to check out that product, it'll import the overnights here, and they actually help print out calendars that show when a parent is entitled to time sharing with their child. So that's what that partnership is all about. All right, so I am going to close this folder and we're going to talk about income. If you need to use the Alimony calculator, you would still be on this screen. You just would delete the children or never enter children. And you could use this screen to enter income for spousal support purposes and calculations. So all of the data for Alimony is going to be from this screen or your financial affidavit. So that's how you would just jump into spousal support, which we will discuss towards the end of the presentation. These two folders are all about income. So let's open the first one. And what you're going to see is Taylor and Blake on a side-by-side basis. And this was our sample file, so everything is already loaded, but I want to talk about a few things that impact net income. And so first off is going to be this box here for self-employed people. So if Taylor is a contractor or 1099 or self-employed, etc., you would just check this box, and in the background, all of these taxes are calculating and has a direct impact on child support. If you have a case where, let's say, Taylor is unemployed and you want to add minimum wage, we actually have a really easy box for that. You just click this box and we will apply the current minimum wage. In Florida, this is going to be changing every year until it hits $15 an hour. And so if you're using the cloud program and you check this box, you're going to have the most up-to-date minimum wage. So this will be changing pretty soon. And if the parties are not able to work 40 hours a week, you can change this to part-time hours. The other option is if we go with the contractor theory, like they're self-employed, I could change this to $30 an hour or whatever the parties are working. And the intent of this is so you don't have to pull out a calculator. All of these tools are built in within the program. So if I uncheck this box, everything clears. If I check the box, it applies minimum wage on a weekly basis. But don't worry, when we get to the child support guideline worksheet, it will convert to a monthly number. On the other end, Blake is a high income earner. And so let's say Blake makes $300,000 a year. Family law software is automatically going to calculate child support for high income families. So that that $10,000 threshold, there's no extra checkbox. So you just enter their income and we're going to calculate the appropriate child support. There's no extra box for that. This is a drop down. Everybody gets paid differently. So $300,000 could be their monthly income. Don't we wish? So I'll just type in $7,000 a month or whatever the party's income is. Remember that this is gross. All of this income is gross. We're automatically going to calculate taxes in the background. And if in this case, Taylor is only making minimum wage, you'll notice that we have these check boxes here, and they will remove the earned income credit or all credits that are associated with having minor children within your home. So if you've ever gone to print your child support guideline worksheet and seen that their taxes are negative, it's correct. It means that they're getting that big refund in the spring, and we are factoring that into their income. If you think that's not fair or you don't want that to happen in your case, that's what these boxes are for. And this is also a great point that if your child support is different, I totally get it. Doing math is stressful. Doing math in, from a lawyer standpoint, it's just not fun. And so if you ever have this child support number and it's different than your fact finder or opposing counsel, it could be lots of things. It could be something as simple as the overnights. Oops, you did different overnights, or the income was different, something super easy to see. The taxes, those are a little bit harder. We have a lot of features in family law software that other people that are calculating child support might not have access to. So when you finally look at those printouts, if your number is different, it's usually pretty quick to find out the issue. Is it taxes or some data issue? And one of the big ones is who is claiming head of household. Everybody reports that they're going to claim head of household. And so what happens in our program is we assume whoever is the majority time sharing parent, that party is going to be head of household and the other party is single. This can be updated. This is updated because this is going to be their filing status. And so if the person, let's say Blake, is claiming the children for the child tax credit, that doesn't mean that Blake is also entitled to a head of household status. So keep those nuances in mind because they can have a really big impact on the taxes and therefore child support, and this can be changed. The other thing that can be changed is the tax year. So in family law software, we assume that you want to calculate taxes in the current tax year, which is 2023. If you're calculating retroactive support, it's super easy. If you want to change to 2022, 2021, etc., however far back you want or need to go, you can click here to change that, and it will change the tax year. So if you've ever had to do that, you can do that. You can also, so your files are going to always assume 2023. So just know that. All right. Net income. We've gone a long way entering data. And you might say, well, I already know what the net income is under the statute. You don't want to go through this data process. Either it's been agreed upon or you've allowed someone to calculate it for you. You can just manually put in net income here. And we mean net income under the statute, not net income like a CPA thinks about it. So if you want to skip all this and just come here and enter net income, you're able to do so, and we will still calculate child support for you. All right, we're going to talk about income a little bit more. Again, if you're doing just alimony, you would still go through this process. You just would have zero child support at the top. Wage-like income is what I call funny money, and we have a line for all of the common sources of income. The reason we have so many lines is because of tax consequences or having no tax consequence at all. The other thing is, you might notice that there's things on here that don't affect child support. So let's say that Taylor has food stamps or some type of public assistance. If you type a number in, it will not affect child support. We let you know it's not for child support. So the question is, why do we ask for it? We ask for it because it's important to know what the party's true available net income is for lots of reports that are happening in family law software. And so while it may not impact child support directly, it's important to know what the parties have. In Florida, a super common form of income is VA disability. And so we have a disability line. Keep in mind, disability could be a private benefit that they paid into, or it could be a VA disability check. And so if it were a VA disability check, you would type in that number and check the non-tax box. Just that simple. Social Security is down here. Social Security is non-taxable for most people. So you pop in the Social Security here. We don't give you an option to mark it as non-taxable. The program is doing the tax calculation in the background. If there's other sources of income, it could affect their tax calculation. And so if you've ever wondered that, that's what's going on there. Last are going to be these lines. If you are in North Florida or you're representing parties that are in the military, we don't have special lines for all of the things that appear on their page stubs. And so you can enter those here. So Blake has a section, Taylor has a section. So if they have, the BHA, the house, all the things that appear, you would just type it in here and mark it as non-taxable. Or any source of income that you want to put in to see how it impacts the child support calculation and easily remove it. So this can be a good place for those types of items. The last source of income that we're going to discuss in detail is the Social Security derivative benefit. This is a check that the child receives because of the parent's retirement or disability. This is not the section for the child's SSI. So if the child is disabled and they receive their own SSI check, this is not what we were talking about. Or if there was like an adoption subsidy or something like that, those monies belong to the child. They don't go into the program. But the SSDI, Social Security Derivative Benefit, does go into the program. And I pause here because we do get a lot of questions about this. Are you doing the calculation correctly? How does this work? And so I pause here for that reason. Taylor has a column and Blake has a column. Whoever receives the check, that's where the money goes. So let's assume Taylor is receiving this check. The follow-up question is, are they receiving it because of their own disability? So that number would go here. If Taylor was disabled and the child was receiving a derivative check, it goes here. But if Taylor is receiving the check because of Blake's disability, that check would go here. And you'll see a reduction in child support because they're getting a credit. It actually increases Blake's available income, but they also get a credit against their child support. So that's the way that calculation works, and it's in line with Florida law. So pause here if you ever need this, and then remember the money goes in the column of the person who receives the check, and then we ask why are they receiving that check. If you've ever wondered how family law software is calculating all of these taxes along the way, if you click reports and you click view edit taxes, all of this money is flowing to this tax report, and you can see the full breakdown kind of in that 1040 IRS format. So go there to check that out. Last is going to be deductions. The most common deductions, let me just scroll up. The most common deductions are going to be health, obviously. We've broken it down into health, dental, and vision, and we've done that because we're constantly trying to make data entry as easy as possible. We know everybody's paycheck is different, and we're just trying to have a line for everything that you need. We've broken it down 3 times, but each section works the same. So we're just going to stick up here in health. These are health insurance premiums. There's that monthly premium. And so the first line asks parent plus child. The reason we ask for parent plus child, that's an easy number. It's on the pay stub. How much is the benefit? And something also that I'll bring up now is anytime you click a field where we ask for a number, it's yellow, and you'll notice that a calculator and a hashtag appears. Hashtag is for text, so like to be determined, I don't know, that's what the text is. And this is a calculator. So if the party says, well, I get paid weekly and they take out $100 for health insurance, I could just type in whatever period that the money comes in or out, and I click OK, and then we'll convert that to the monthly number. So again, using software is supposed to make your life easier and more streamlined, and hopefully not have to pull out the calculator or the phone to use your calculator. So parent plus child, super easy. This number is easy to find. This is the tricky side. How much of that health insurance premium is allocated to the child or children's health care? Hopefully the plan administrator breaks it down. I bet they don't. And so this is the part where the child's health insurance goes. And so I break this down slowly because this is different than other programs. If you are a financial professional, or even if you're an attorney, this tax category for health insurance, this can also impact the net income and therefore child support. We assume that all of these payments are going to be deducted from their pay stub, but this is a drop down. So if you've ever wondered about tax categories for health insurance or what this is, that's what that section is about. Now, if Taylor only has health insurance for themselves, I would just type in 200 and I'm done. So the program knows the allocated health insurance for the parent, it's just 200, period. Or if on the other side, Blake only pays $150 for the children and he has no health insurance for himself, you can just use that line. So I know in particular for first-time users, this can be a little complicated, and then you kind of get the hang of it. And so dental and vision work the exact same way, and they have tax categories for health down here, dental and vision. If you know the total that they pay, but you just can't figure out the kids' share or a fair way to allocate the children's share, we have some worksheets here. And so this is all about prorating. So we'll just do simple division and figure out the children's portion. So you can use the prorating worksheet. I definitely encourage you to check that out if you find that to be a common issue in your practice and you're just frustrated by it, just prorate. The other thing is, health insurance is more than just health insurance premiums. So we have a worksheet here for out-of-pocket expenses. So most practitioners like to deal with out-of-pocket costs within the parenting plan, but if for some reason you want to deal with out-of-pocket medical costs within the child support calculation, we'll let you do that with this hyperlink. So if you find that health insurance is like a twisty area, know that we have a couple of worksheets to help you with those issues, but by default, we just deal with the premiums and not out of pocket. So again, that's a practice tip. How do you want to manage those issues? Let's scroll down. 13 is all about daycare. That's pretty straightforward. How much do they spend on daycare and who's paying for it? This is new. We recently added this into the program by request. And so there's a string of cases that essentially say that time-sharing expenses, the most common one being travel, can be included in your child support calculation. And so we have this as an option. If you don't want to use it, ignore it. If this is something that you've been waiting for and you were at the January AAML cert review and this topic was discussed, we have added it into the program for that purpose. And so let's say that they're having to drive a long distance and the gas and the tolls, and it costs them $100 a month or whatever that cost is. You can type that in and then check this box to include it in the calculation. And I'll show you where this goes. I'll make a more obvious number. We'll just say 777. Right. Alimony on this current relationship. For this case, I'm just going to make this 0. So when we get to our alimony calculator, we just have a clean start. But if you already know what spousal support is and you want to pop it in here and you want to see the impact on child support, great. Taxes, I told you about how we have a full report, but we have breakdowns here. So if I want to look at the tax worksheet, you can actually modify the taxes in family law software. I don't suggest you do it, but you could. And if you click this tax worksheet, you can modify one or both parties' taxes on a monthly basis. rather than doing it in the 1040 style, which can be a little intimidating with annual taxes. So you would just let the program know that you're going to enter the taxes yourself, because by default, we're doing all that heavy lifting in the background. So if you don't want that to happen, then that's where you would change that. So you can also use the back button in your browser. So you can, when you're using the cloud, you can use the back button. And those tax worksheets were here and a bunch of tax options. The statute is going to end here. We've got mandatory retirement. Keep in mind, mandatory retirement. Think about state employees, not my employer has a matching program, and so I have to put 3% in, so I get the match. That's not what mandatory means. So look out for high numbers that get popped in there. Union dues, and then child support and spousal support from other relationships. So for my Tampa attorneys, Smith Speed credits or child support from other relationships, it goes here. So anytime that you want child support to affect the current calculation, so if you have a Smith Speed credit for another case that you've calculated, for another child, excuse me, you would pop that in here. So that's a common question out there. All right, we're done. If you have higher income parties that are retired, parties that are having all of those fun sources of income that we hope to get in retirement, we do have this folder at the end. It's less common when you have minor children. And so go in there for businesses, etc. And so this is our child support number at the top. So let's go into printing. I'm going to click print just so I can show you a couple things that we've added. So by default, we're going to print the official Supreme Court worksheet. If you want to print in Spanish, we've had this for about 6 months. So if you haven't noticed this, you can click this box and we are going to translate the official Supreme Court form into Spanish. You would just click PDF. And so you can have a Spanish version and an English version. There's other options at the top. So I'm toggling back to English first. And then there's other options here about how you want to print, including PDF-A. So look out for those. The default is going to be like an abridged version of child support. And so what we're doing is any duplicate lines, we're just removing them. And every child support guideline worksheet is going to have the taxes attached at the bottom. You just click PDF in the top right-hand corner when you're ready. Remember, I had her taxes set at 0 because I removed the earned income tax credit. So again, if you ever see anything wrong on this sheet, you got to go back and update those numbers in the calculator, and they'll all flow through correctly. Oh, and then here, the travel. So this line is normally for childcare, daycare. If you have travel, you'll see this pop in. So this is where travel is going to be managed. So for those of you that are curious about that, that's what's going on. I'm going to scroll back to the very top. Step downs. If you have multiple children and you have entered their date of birth, we will calculate the step downs for you. There's options at the top. These are kind of important for your step downs. So you now are going to have an option with family law software. And so what these two options mean, when the child ages out, is that child still going to be a dependent within their household? Or you can treat that child as being just gone from their taxes and from any consideration. And so check those out. Look at the blue bubble. If you've ever wondered about that, it's now a feature that's a little easier to do in family law software. And then I have level 1 and level 2. Child support ends on the 18th, on the birthday, their 18th birthday that month. If you want to modify this to the summer for school purposes, you can. And then now you're actually able to print all of your worksheets together. So level 1, level 2, if I click here, we're going to have all of those worksheets for you for the step downs. So then that way you kind of show your work for how you got to those 2 different levels. So that is new. That's been released in the last week, I would say. And so it's automatic and it's located here. If you need to deviate from child support, we have an in-depth deviation worksheet. So again, you don't have to deviate from child support, but if you want to, I think this is a very handy worksheet to just say, yes, we're deviating and why. All right, let's go back to my child support calculator. This number is high. So $2,700 for child support. Your client might say, oh my goodness, no, why? Or what if there's more time sharing? What if income was imputed at a higher level for the majority time sharing parent? Family law software has a bunch of other tools and they're located under analysis. The first tool I'm going to show you is what we call side-by-side child support. So this is only for individual and firm users. If you're a basic user, you don't have access to this. So if you'd like to upgrade, obviously let us know. Support what if. In my sample file, I'm running child support 3 ways. This column matches the calculator. So that's the $2,700 is here. So I'm just going to remove these columns and start from scratch. So if you've never used this tool before, this is what it would look like. This number matches all of your printouts in the calculator. And all you would do is click add scenario. And whatever the parties are weighing, whether it's overnight, whether it's last year your bonus was $20,000 and this year you say it's 0, whatever it is on a side-by-side basis. So in this particular case, I'm just going to say spousal support is 2,000. So in this column, spousal support is 0 and there's child support. And then in this column, spousal support is 2,000 and then child support is 1,800. Anything that affects child support is on this screen and you can click PDF. So for your fact finder, lay it out real easy. Actual is what you want and the less likely scenarios go further or hide them in the middle. So this is a really great exhibit or attachment and it's located in analysis and support impact. Add another scenario and it follows the actual column. And then I could say $3,000 for spousal support. So the analysis has a lot of really cool things in it. All right, let's go into arrears. So this child support number, or whatever the spousal support or child support number is, you may or may not have known that we have an arrears calculator within the program. What do I mean by that? They have a child support obligation or a spousal support obligation that they have not paid. And you got to figure out how much they owe. And you might also want to apply the penalty of interest. How do you do that? In Florida, it's pretty complicated. Why? Interest rates in Florida for judgments change on a quarterly basis. So in this particular case, let's say that with our example, we'll continue with our example. Child support was about $2,700. And let's say it was ordered and they never paid it. And that order started in like 2020 at least. And let's say there is no end date, they just haven't paid it. And then these are the quarterly interest rates that are in Florida. So if you've ever had to do this in the past, it is a pain and a half. And so if I click view rates, we're going to see all of the historical judgment rates in Florida, particularly in 2023. It's pretty high right now. It's 7.69. And so what our program is going to do is, based on the dates that you enter, we will apply the appropriate interest. So let me click back on support arrears. So if you've ever had to do this before by hand, I hope you're getting super excited. In this case, the obligation I calculated was $2,700, and then this was the start date. If the parties have made any regular payments or one-time payments, we have these sections here. So they threw, here's $500, here's $2,000. They paid for a few months and then they stopped. Those are the types of things that you can do here, and we'll properly apply those payments. The dates are very important, and obviously the amounts. And when you scroll down to the end, you get your results. Keeping in mind, this could be used for just child support or child support and alimony together. We'll make separate reports. And so when you click view the calculation obligation, we will show you the balance that is constantly increasing in this column, and then if they made payments or not and all that stuff. So this is a really great calculator for you to use in your practice. And so again, it's located in this analysis tab. All right, awesome. So again, that was the support arrears. I hope that you find that super helpful. And then check out the blue bubbles and the rates, etc., because we'll show you how the calculation is happening and what to do about that. right, so let's go back into our calculator, and we're going to switch gears into alimony. So in this section, it's always been about child support and alimony. Just now in Florida, we have a calculator. So why don't we talk about that new calculation? So first off, net income for spousal support is the same as net income for child support. So want to make sure that we're getting that data in appropriately and that we're looking at all of the tax consequences appropriately to get to the right net income. If you have no children, you just delete the children and then enter the data as needed. So then when you click alimony, let me just close this, you're going to have these 4 folders. And in particular, the net income folder is drawing all the information from the data entry that's happening either in the guideline or within the income and expense section. So if I were to open this net income section, everything is blue because we already got that information from the child support calculation or financial affidavit. So if you come here, know that these numbers are coming from the calculators, excuse me. All right, so let's talk about the alimony term first. And so we need obviously the date of marriage. In this case, let me just type in 2000 and the date of the filing of the petition. So let's say they filed the beginning of the year. All right, so this is the pretty easy part. So what is the duration of the marriage? And then how long is the maximum term of durational alimony? So by typing in the dates, we know that they were married almost 23 years. So we got the 22.82. And that would put them in the long category. So these boxes are all in blue because we're drawing information from the dates. You don't want to pop in the years. We're going to calculate the dates for you. So that's going to be that top part. And so maximum alimony is for 17 years and 1 month. All right, net income. So again, anytime you see blue, it's because we're doing a calculation or we're drawing information from the program back in here. If you want to see the net income calculation, you could just click the official guideline worksheet and we'll take you to the child support printout. And so you can see how we got to these numbers. If you are doing a modification case or possibly already entered spousal support, you're going to see that we'll remove it in this line because we're not going to double dip. So we're going to remove that. All right, perfect. And so we've got the net monthly income for both. And then obviously the payor in this case is going to be Blake. So let's talk about the next folder. So the actual calculation is going to be happening here. All right. So for those of you that haven't come in here yet or played around with this, you're going to notice that Family Law Software has taken a little bit of a different approach than some of our competitors or some financial worksheets, Excel worksheets that you may have seen that are going around for free. Why? This part is easy. The statute says that you find the net income of the parties, which is happening here on line 4. And then you calculate the difference in those net incomes. So again, all of this is blue and it's happening automatically. And then you take 35% of the net income, and that is durational alimony. It's super easy and it's super straightforward. So you definitely want to bring your eyes here because this calculation, again, it's right in the statute. Keeping in mind that you still have the need and the ability to pay factors. So this is not a guarantee that you're going to get spousal support in this amount for this timeline. You still have the need and ability to pay, and we are addressing that straightforward calculation that's within the statute. Our interpretation of the statute, though, is that there's a line and it says that durational, rehabilitative, and bridge the gap alimony, that there can be a combination of these forms of spousal support. And the statute says that the combination or the payment of spousal support has like this phrase that we don't know what it means. And we're trying to address that all in this section. So if you're black and white and you just want the simple answer here, this section is our answer to the phrase of the statute that says spousal support should not cause the payor to have significantly less net income than the recipient. And so our answer to that is an equalization payment. So if you've wondered why this number, we call this the maximum monthly combined alimony amount, is $1,800, and this number is obviously higher than the durational amount. We are reading the statute to say that you are allowed to combine forms of alimony, and if you have a spousal support payment that makes that combination, it cannot leave the payor with significantly less net income than the recipient. And so we are calculating essentially an equalization payment here. And so this is the explanation about what family law software is doing it and why. That is our interpretation of the statute. We've talked to others that have a similar interpretation of the statute. If that is not how you read the statute, you can ignore this. You don't have to use this. And you can zero out any of these numbers that you don't want to see. You can just put 0. It'll be red, but when you print, you're going to see that there isn't this calculation that you don't agree with or that you don't want to show your client or the fact finder. We understand that that could possibly be confusing. And so you can just zero that out. If you're catching my vibes and our drift with this number is 0. If this number is set to 0, it acts as an equalization payment, and it's only an equalization payment for spousal support. If you say that you want to push this boundary a little harder rather than an equalization payment, you could say that they're going to leave the payor with 10% less net income than the recipient. And then you'll see this payment go up. So that's what this tool is all about, why it's there. So if you were confused as to what we were doing, this is our interpretation of the statute. And we definitely encourage users to think about it. And so let us know what you think along the way. So unless the legislature clarifies the new alimony law, maybe this is what they intended and we'll just leave it at that and we'll get rid of the other bells and whistles. But in the meantime, that's why they're there. I am going to pop into the last folder, which is located here. And just scroll up so you can see the whole folder. And so again, I could have zeroed that out at the top. In my case, I kept it. And so we have durational alimony, bridge the gap, everything combined. And so once the parties agree to a number, so maybe it turned out to be $1,000, and then you can pop in your start date. And then like how long it's going to last. So in this year, what was it? I forgot what it was. How many years? Perfect. So in this case, I put in 28 years and the program says, oopsies, you went above the presumptive amount. So we're having a little warning there. In this case, was it like 20 years was allowed? Nope.
Just 17.
17. Perfect, Nancy. Thank you. So anything 17 or under is going to work here and you will not get that alert. But if you type in something that the parties have agreed to, you can ignore the alert, or the alert says you can't do that. So it's not allowable. Oh, actually, Nancy, thank you. It is at the top, 17 years and 1 month. All right. And so that is how that's going to work. And then down here, we're going to have annualized numbers. So if you're a financial planner and you are doing budget reports or cash flow issues, know that these are the totals that are going to flow if you want them to. And so this, if these are the numbers that you want to accept, at the very top, there's a checkbox. So by default, this is just going to act as a calculator. If you want these numbers to actually impact your child support and your cash flow, et cetera, you want to check that box. Printing. Right, so printing. If I come here, we have the case header And then we have what we made up ourselves. Obviously, there's no official form yet. And so in the meantime, this is what we have done. And so you would click print and then you click PDF at the top right-hand corner, excuse me, and then you can modify these numbers here if there was a correction that needed to be done. You can also override these numbers. So these are technically our calculations, and if you want to modify them, you can. So you can make your printout look the way you need or want it to. All right, let me go back into the alimony guideline. All right, perfect. So in this case, let's say that the parties agree that alimony is going to be $1,284. Let's go to child support and pop that number in, the $1,284. So I'm in my child support calculator, I complete, and I go down to deductions, and I type in 1,284. So now I can see what child support will be if this is what spousal support is. And I come back to the child support calculator because I think that this is a pretty nifty tool that users don't click on. So the last tab is quick, complete, and graphs. If I click graphs, we're going to have visual representations of the data. And so this is the parties before any support. This is the parties after the support. This might look fair. It might look unfair. So for visual people, this is a really great tool for you to show the fairness or the unfairness. And there's also other graphs at the bottom. So how does this actually affect the payer? Because you might think, well, this doesn't look super fair. So let's look at the payer's financial health. So when I click this, you can see that 23% of their income is going to child support, 17% to taxes, and 13% to spousal support. And that leaves them with almost $50,000 left for living. That seems okay. So I bring you to this so that you can see the balance and what's actually happening in the case. How are the parties looking at the time of dissolution versus after support is ordered, assets are divided, et cetera. So family law software is going to show you the current and then the after. And so if you're not doing that for your clients, know that there's really easy ways to do this within family law software. You can also do the same thing with the recipient. Your clients want to know that they're going to be okay. So if I do it for the recipient, I can see that child support is going to be a big part of this person's income or available spending income. And then you can see how alimony is a part of it, and then that they still have their wages to rely on as well. If you ever want to print these, all you got to do is click PDF in the top right-hand corner. These make really great exhibits, in my opinion. So if you have not used these before, we talked about quick and complete and graphs. So definitely check out the graphs. One more comparison tool that I want to show you is also in analysis. And so if you want to play around with other spousal support tools, we have all of those located here. But now, especially in Florida, that we kind of have more defined numbers, you can come into these tools. So I'm going to click support or other what if, and then here, I'll type in, I forgot what it was, 2783. Just type it here, that same number. Just hide this column. And so what's happening on this screen is I have my spousal support that we've agreed to, durational, and then I have my child support, and I can look at expanded reports here. So this is going to show the parties' financial health after support has been calculated. So again, I'm in what if, other what if. I have it set up with child and spousal support. And if I click expanded report, we're seeing all of those numbers broken down, and this can be super compelling depending on what's happening in your case. So I can see all of the sources of income that the parties have, from working or disability. All of the taxes are broken down, and we're able to see, in this case, Taylor, the recipient, is receiving $1,400 in child support and $2,700 in spousal support. And we can see how this is impacting both of the parties on a side-by-side basis. you're allowed to have multiple columns so you can see how support is impacting their cash flow, and click PDF in the top right-hand corner. These can be super compelling exhibits to say these numbers are too high, these numbers are too low, or let your clients know they're going to be okay. You can manage these payments, or receiving this money is going to make it so that you can live, a normal post-divorce life with your children and, move on comfortably. So you'll be able to see these in what we call what if. All right, let me go back to the calculator. Quick. Let's just stick to quick right now. All right, so you have calculated child support. You've printed your child support guideline worksheet, and you've calculated spousal support. What other forms does family law software have? So family law software is based off of the finance of the case. And so child support being one of the big financial issues, you may or may not have seen this. So in the affidavit section, there is a print other FL forms. And if I come here, there's two forms that you should be looking for, and that is the IDO and the IWO. So these are the only additional forms that we offer for Florida. The official forms, you've got your financial affidavit, your child support guideline worksheet, and then our version of an alimony worksheet. And so we have a certificate of compliance with mandatory disclosure, if you did not know. And then we have the IDO, the income deduction order, and the income withholding order. You're going to notice that we still have the Florida addendum. You should not be using this form. If you click on this form, we have a warning at the top, but we have kept it here by request. It's something that we will likely remove in the near future, so please do not be confused by that. The IDO is a state form. And so all of these are options that you, our users, have reached out to us and asked that we make available for the IDO. So these are all things that can be added or removed from your IDO. If I click for the income deduction order, you will see that, let me scroll down, the information regarding the children from your child support calculator is going to be here automatically. These numbers are in blue. That way, all of the information flows through the program and matches. And so you would just click PDF in the top right-hand corner. And then if there's something that you wanted to add or remove from the form, you are able to do those with the checkboxes at the top. Next, the IWO. This is a federal form. So if you've ever wondered what's the difference between the IDO and the IWO is a federal form. You're really not supposed to make modifications to federal forms. We do have these options, again, because the users are requesting it. So we're trying to make the program usable for what you are intending to do with it. So if you have a child support case, you would do the IDO and the IWO. If you're doing just a spousal support case, you might just want to go look at that IDO. And so all of this information is pulling through the program, and those child support numbers and the spousal support numbers are going to flow through here. So again, we didn't ask you if you wanted these forms made, we just made them in the background for you. So if you need them, they are super easy to access, and you may not have known that they were available. Great, so again, print other forms, and then again, you can check out that certificate of compliance with mandatory disclosure if you would like to go see that. Great. That is all I have for you. We ended just a couple minutes early. Let me check the chat. Okay, that was live. So there was a question about the IDO and the IWO. They are going to be made in a PDF format. So the IDO and the IWO, anytime that you are doing anything in family law software, they are going to go into PDF format. So I would click PDF in the top right hand corner. And so if you have Adobe Pro, I personally enjoy it. It does conversions from PDF to Word, and that does work. And so you can do the PDF and then convert it into a Word document. If that's something that you guys really need, let us know. We're constantly making improvements to the program. And so if these are not meeting your needs because you're required to submit them in a Word format, we definitely want to hear that, so that it's usable. And then there was a follow-up question. So a couple years ago, this changed. And so you definitely want to check your family law rules. The IDO and the IWO, again, the IDO is a state form, the state of Florida, and the IWO is going to be a federal form, and you no longer need the Florida addendum. So if you've ever confused them, I confuse them too. It happens. So IDO, state, IWO, federal. And they go into PDF format. All right, there were some questions about printing. So I'll go back to printing and then we're going to end the webinar there. So anytime that you want to print your child support or make modifications, you go to support guideline and update the income, update the birthdays, etc. It flows through to the rest of the program. And then for printing, it happens here. So again, when you come here, this is your official form. These are all of your printing options. And if you need to print, you just click PDF in the top right-hand corner. Okay. And so that's how you're going to print your PDF child support guideline worksheet. If any of these numbers need to be modified, you can do so in the calculator. If you need to modify the header, it's here. For those of you that have seen a child support guideline worksheet that prints sideways, one page landscape, we will print the numbers in that same format. So we'll do that here, and you can click PDF again. You can compare numbers in the same place. And so that's the way that you can print that. And then last, there was a question about deviations. And so the deviation worksheet, it works on different theories. The only percent, so you can do a fixed dollar amount, and keep in mind, if you want child support to go down, you have to enter a negative number. So if there's a credit against child support, you want a credit, you have to do a negative number. If you want to deviate and reimburse the payee or based on financial responsibility, we have those options. The statute has an auto a 5%. And so that's the only percentage that you could do if you wanted to deviate 5% up or down, then you would click that box. And so that's what this worksheet is intended to do. You can add negative numbers, positive numbers, or the 5% that's going to be here. You want to make sure that you're using the lines and then clicking PDF in the top right-hand corner when it comes to deviations. So really great questions. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining our webinar today on Florida child support and spousal support.